YouTube, welcome back to another video. Today I am doing something completely different than what I typically post on the regular. I usually post Call of Duty content and or like clips and highlights from my stream, which you've guys seen in the past, but since I want to do something a little different and it's specifically a challenge for Ghost Gaming week 2 of the recruitment challenge, I wanted to do some reaction content, which has been highly requested from my community and also from my best friends and everybody in my life that wants me to do content like this. I think it would be best to showcase this in this specific portion of the recruitment challenge. So if you are brand new, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. And or if you're watching this from other socials, drop a follow. If you want to check out my streams, I will be live on Twitch. So same name if you want to find me, watch me, come say hi, do whatever you like. And if you want to vouch for hashtag Ghost Heartless, you can. And for today's video, we will be discussing LGBTQ women versus former LGBTQ women, which for those that know me, of course, I am a part of the LGBTQ community, and you're basically going to be hearing my thoughts and opinions on what these women are saying, hot takes, if you will. Enjoy.
The next prompt is, my faith influences my understanding of sexuality and identity.
I'm going to pause it here and then explain my opinion before they get into their opinions, and I'll pause it during if there's something that's interesting to me to like want to like have more of a convo like with. But basically, as someone who is ex-Christian and or like has done the whole like religious type of halfway before, personally, from what I've seen out of the community, a lot of lesbians specifically, because I am a lesbian myself, they do juggle with being like in a religion to where they're more like not safe to actually be openly themselves, so then they have to be more in the closet, which then affects them mentally and or like affects how they can actually like live and how they view the world, because then religion is therefore restricting a person to truly live who they are and to repress that instead of them actually living what they could be living is like a happier life rather than, you know, being strict to one specific way of living because they have to do this according to their Bible or their like their religion in general, if they have a Bible. I mean, personally, I don't like the perpetuated harm of religion done by misunderstandings, like per se in Christianity, how a lot of people misinterpret the what I would deem as the most misinterpreted verse just to demean and or make LGBTQ basically the worst sin in like their light instead of making all their sins in the same like light. They tend to pick and choose what they want to like deem as what's worse and what's better, but you're not supposed to do that specifically for Christianity. I feel like there's supposed to be more nuance and there's supposed to be more like openness and understanding, but also like that's just my opinion. A lot of Christians do view it differently. It really depends on what type of Christian you're talking to and how like strict they are with that and how they interpreted the Bible in that way, because it truly comes down to their interpretations at the end of the day, and or like what they were originally taught and by like who they like trusted in that moment. But I also can vary, and this is a whole like deep complex conversation, so I can go on and on about this. But I do think that the understandings of modern day Christianity does perpetuate harm towards people that are LGBTQ just because there's such a big misunderstanding of the verses of the Bible that they make it seem like it's a crime that they can't do it at all, and that's not what they're supposed to do, and that's not what they were created for, and a whole bunch of like stigmas on it.
Of course, people are going to have different takes on this, and what I'm about to say is going to be really controversial, especially in the Christian community, and I'm just going to be real. God, what am I doing? Was what I'm doing wrong? And I've never gotten the answer of this is wrong. I've never gotten the thought of being with a woman or anything like that. You know, if God does have an issue with it, that'll be between me and him. Maybe I'm meant to stay trans so I can influence more people on my side of the spectrum to turn to Christ and be comfortable with themselves. Who knows? I don't think anyone is wrong in their spiritual journey. I think if someone is gay and they pray and they don't want to do that anymore and they get the message of that it's wrong and they need to quit and they do, I don't think they're wrong for that. I think that they're completely okay in doing that and we should love and support them.
Because earlier I said I always knew, with my experience, I always knew it was wrong. I wasn't trying to say like that what you guys are doing are wrong. Like it was just wrong for me.
Do you think scripture says that homosexuality is wrong?
Yes, it does. We can start with Old Testament, Leviticus.
Like if you're gonna break down like, oh, it's a different translation of like the homosexuality.
Specifically with that verse, you also have to think, again, we talked about context in the last, talking about Christian, the LGBT people. When it comes to that specific verse, and I'm not going to deny anything about homosexuality, but when it comes to men and women's clothing, it is referring to the role. So maybe that is sinful for me to take on the role of a woman, but however, you also have to think that clothes definitely were not the same as they were back then as they are now, and clothes really don't have a gender. Men and women dress pretty much identical.
So basically how I feel is I do believe in God, but the reason why there's so many versions of the Bible because it's open to interpretation, and the Bible has been weaponized to control and marginalize people. I think it does a good job from what I'm hearing. It does a good job of controlling people, and to question, you guys question yourselves because of something somebody else interpreted, and it also sounds like you guys are having trauma responses and weaponizing the Bible to project that onto the LGBT as, oh, this didn't work for me, so it's
He's
wrong.
clocking
and
it.
You guys are influencing or trying to put this on people when we're just trying to live and tell the truth. That's it.
And the next prompt is, it is healthy to experiment with sexuality.
I do have to say, that does lead down a path of you can't really predict what the future entails. Like, yeah, you can shelter yourself and never sleep with someone and all that, and you can possibly prevent like a lot of harm done to you, but then also you would be too scared to live. And for those who've had therapy out there, knows that even a therapist would tell you to not like prevent yourself from experiencing life experiences and or like living just because of the what ifs. So like I can understand why she has a battle between the like you should but you shouldn't type of thing, but that mentality is just really bad. Basically like suppressing yourself completely from what the world is out there currently. But then also you can also be like stopping yourself from finding your true love, the one person that will be like the world to you, which could also be really detrimental to your health because then you're not actually like building anything further than just kind of like living in that aloneness, which a lot of people can actually like go into a deep depression and or that can actually lead to them dying because of them feeling so alone in life. So I always say, like the others have said, do it consensually. You can do it in moderation if that's what you like. If you want to sleep with whoever and not be monogamous and be poly, as long as you're happy and or also like really safe with what you do at the end of the day. There's also doctors for that reason if you do get in a situation where you're not safe. So at the end of the day, consensual and or get checkups. You're fine. You'll be thriving. And if needed, go to therapy if you really need the mental health portion of it and how to like navigate certain relationship dynamics and whatnot. But always do what makes you happy in life.
And so as you can see, you got studs who, you know, who are dating a femme, and all of a sudden their femme is now a stud. It's because of the sexual sin that's now affecting the femme, right? And so that's just my experience and observation. But also, like, in regards to this, I feel like
That statement, she's basically, I'm cackling. Gender expression is when a person expresses a certain way by like dressing and wearing clothing that could be feminine or masculine or both, which is more like androgyny or stems, or there's a whole bunch of other like terminology that you can like look up for this. But for her to be like, no, you have to be one way and only this way is honestly kind of crazy. I'm gonna say it because people always change their fashion. They are always discovering like themselves, whatever makes them the most comfortable. Sometimes like their childhood, like their parents tell them to dress a certain way, and then that's not actually what makes them like happy at the end of the night. Like they always end up dreaming to like wear a certain thing and or like wear even makeup to even express themselves. So it's like crazy to hear someone say that they cannot wear and or like be themselves. I don't know, that's a weird take to me.
I became a slave to my own sin. So as I'm a Christian, and the Bible is clear to me that this is sexual sin, I'm actually a slave to sexual sin, which means I'm messing around with all the strippers, prostitutes, and every sexual act I could think of that would find pleasure for me that one moment. Well, when it was all said and done, it didn't bring life to me. It didn't bring joy to me. There was actually shame in it, and I actually lost the value of what intimacy that was created.
Deep down, she would have had to think about that situation and not just do it. You have to like really like sit with yourself and be like, should I actually engage in this or not? Because then you like run into those situations to where like you're just not happy with yourself because you literally just out of nowhere decided to let me just sleep with the stripper, and you didn't want to sleep with the stripper. You don't have to sleep with the stripper. That's up to you. Like that is your choice.
And the next prompt is, conversion therapy should not be supported.
I think it should be outlawed. If you're an adult and you're interested in it, then sure, go for it. But for minors specifically, which is, the government just made it legal for minors. They said it's freedom of speech, and I just think that's, I don't recommend. It kind of just filled me with more shame and fear and confusion. It led me to leaving my household because I wasn't conforming. Wasn't learning how to be straight, in their words, or letting go of my demons.
I think that's really sick of them to kick you out of the Catholic Church, because Jesus forgave people who went on murdering crusades of Christians. And the Catholic Church kicking you out is basically saying you are unworthy of forgiveness, and that's disgusting. The church is
She's
there to help
clocking
you
tea.
overcome things,
Usually like Christians I think should abide by the whole like love thy neighbor, and or like the fact that the Bible depicts Jesus is like an all-loving type of person, that they should also perpetuate that behavior. But I know with the whole like debate on free will and like people's like depictions, it's like very like complex and it's not all like black and white. But in a perfect world, I would think that Christianity and or like aka like the Christians would abide by how like Jesus lived and would actually not cause harm and try to actually be friendly and nice. But I know that's not reality. So that is the most like biggest like point that it should go down to. That's why conversion therapy should never be a thing, because it's like a definitive like you have to be this way, and there is no like openness to it. It doesn't allow a person to actually like find themselves. It may lead to them to actually like hurting themselves instead. So then it's like at the end of the day, I think that conversion therapy should be permanently banned in general, and that it should never exist because of how much harm it has caused, and or like trauma specifically to minors in the past specifically too, because those camps are typically not monitored by the actual parents themselves. The parents drop them off there and they can be harmed in so many physical and or mental ways because they're around adults who can manipulate these minors. And I think that is a lot more dangerous, which they should just take the child to therapy at the end of the day, because at least then there's more like controlled factors, and or there isn't no persuading. And if so, you can always change a therapist and you can always like find out. So at the end of the day, conversion therapy, bad. Do not make that legal in all 50 states at all. Throw it away. But I do think that it's good to always have an open mind in order to hear out the other side of any type of debate style. As a person that loves watching debates, try to have different types of debates with different people. It's good to like listen, just so then you can see into that person's world and or like gain like a different perspective, while also like living out your truth, which there is a lot of division in this world. But the more and more conversations that we have with the different types of people, better outcome it will be for the future generations to come. All the debate topics are usually like really good to like gauge where a person's at currently, but also I love the whole like theology of it too, mixed in with LGBTQ, because those topics usually go hand in hand with each other, and there's always like really interesting conversations that comes out of it. And the more and more religion that gets involved with LGBTQ people, the more and more they're like exposing themselves and or like allowing them to gain a new perspective that can eventually harm reduction for the community overall. That's what I would hope the future entails. But other than that, that is my perspective and or thoughts and opinions about this video. Depending on if I like doing this type of content, I will continue in the future. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.